Welcome to Holy Ground Hot Takes, where three travelers on the journey discuss the Lenten Scriptures together, looking at all things faith, life, and ministry related. Join us each week as we break open the Scriptures so that you can too. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our third week of Walking on Holy Ground Hot Takes. And I'm here, as always, with Anne and Karen, and we are talking about the scriptures for the third week of Lent. And we were jokingly saying this is plant week because we have a burning bush and we have a fig tree as part. And don't worry, we'll explain both of them to you.
Yeah, definitely read those readings before you watch us. You might get very confused.
Yeah, for sure. But at least they're getting prep before Sunday.
Yep, that's the whole idea.
It'll make total sense when you go into church.
Ants in the desert. Here we come.
Yeah. All right, Anne, you had a bunch of stuff that I really liked. So
yeah, well, I was thinking about Moses because, we get, this is like kind of like the high point. Well, I guess he had a couple high points to be fair in his story, but this is like one of the most famous stories about him. And, when he hears the voice of God in the burning bush and gets called to go and be a prophet and free God's people from Pharaoh and bring them to the new Holy Land. But it occurred to me that even though we think of it as like a mountaintop moment, like we were talking about last week with the Transfiguration story, for Moses, it was just sort of like a typical work day for him, right? Because he was just out there tending the sheep, his father-in-law's sheep, like maybe on like an ordinary Tuesday or something. And that's when the burning bush came to him. And then I started thinking about Moses's life more broadly and how his life started with, being saved from the basket in the river and taken into the Pharaoh's household as, sort of this leader. And then he ran into trouble with the law and he got kicked out. And he just sort of falls into this life, finds a wife and, family life, and he's got the shepherding gig he's doing. But it's in this kind of quiet in between middle part, in between this all the stuff in Egypt. And then when he gets called to go back to Egypt and get his people, that he has these years of his life that are just kind of there in the middle. And how that's where the burning bush happens. That's where the call comes. So just kind of thinking about that as we are all in kind of the ordinary middle of our lives.
So when I was reading and thinking about it, and I'm not gonna lie, I did research stuff about it because I was like, I'm at a loss, right? Because there's so much that you could say about it. But one of the things that I had read was that, we're really on a journey of hope. And, tying in with Moses, like all he had to do was just hope that there was going to be something better, like everything that he had gone through. And, the patience that everyone had during that time. And I know, like with my own kids, I lose my patience. I'm more patient with other people's kids than I am my own. I don't know how that happens, but it does. And I don't know if it's because of like COVID and we've been cooped up together more or what's going on. But, thinking about God and the patience, cultivating us and knowing us before we were even born and conceived and having a plan for us, like the patience that all this time and in our lives. And I couldn't help but thinking about that even though I get frustrated with my kids and because they're not cooperating or whatever, I continue to give them attention and guidance and hope that a seed is like planted somewhere in there that I can actually see when they get older, the fruitfulness of what's going on, right? And I think I just went into the fig tree instead of
Nice
Moses. Sorry. So Yeah, there's a segue to the plant. Yeah.
From burning bush to fig tree.
Exactly.
Burning bush to fig tree. Oh my Lord. See,
I always-
we're all in this together.
I love the, I'm just thinking, thinking about Moses, and he's just this idea of like, this is not the plan. Like, my life wasn't the plan. This wasn't the plan. And now you're going to tell me the plan is changing. Like, I'm happy and content. And like, I just picture him like in this really good place and being like, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, I'm good where I'm at. And to then be called into something else, that patient of God to be like, no, like, this is what I need you to go do now. Like, you gotta go do this. And I love that idea. And like, you think about moving into that gospel and this idea of like God of second chances, that like, even when everyone else might have given up on these plans, so there was one person being like, no, like, we're not ready to give up yet. And like, how often do I need to hear that message, right? Like, as messed up as things can get, or as many times as I can fall down, that there's still that chance to bear fruit and bear good fruit in the world.
Yeah, I think this we got to talk about the fig tree because it's such a weird story. Like, why? Like, and I think that this story, when it's told in the other gospels that also have this story, that Jesus just curses the fig tree. But in Luke, he gives the fig tree a second or third, or I don't know how many chances this poor tree has had by now. But like what's going? Can we just talk about what it's like to wait for years for something to bear fruit and not to see it, and like, they talk about like, we should pluck it up because it's exhausting the soil. Like, does anybody feel like exhausted soil after the last few years? Because I know I do. And
For sure.
yeah, like, but here in Luke, it's like, but maybe
Yeah.
if we keep cultivating it, and if we fertilize it, and if we show it attention and we love it, it might bear fruit in the future. Yeah, so there's that like hope that you were talking about, Karen.
Yeah, and I think like with us being in ministry, or as parents or grandparents or anywhere, like, that's your ultimate hope, I guess, is to see your lessons that were taught planted, and then eventually at some point, I know Ann and I, we've had conversations about our youth group kids. Like, we think that they're not listening, and then like 10, 15 years, they're like, hey, remember when you said? And we're like, no, we have no idea, remember. But it's always that maybe, that hope. And then I was thinking in terms of like, what if that fig tree, like the other gospels, just got plucked up? Like, what would have happened? There was no sense of purpose for that fig tree then. And we all are called to a sense of purpose.
I think too, like, just the idea of like, take your shoes off because you're on holy ground. And we've been talking all through Lent about how anywhere our feet are is holy ground, right? But how about just a little blessing this week on like ordinary work that gets done unseen, but is planting seeds in hope, right? Even if we can't see the growth when it's happening. But just a shout out to all that love and care and attention that happens when nobody can see it.
Well, that is going to wrap us up for this third week of Lent. And we hope wherever you walk this week, that ends up being holy ground for you. See you back next time.
Great week.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of Holy Ground Hot Takes. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, and of course, give us a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this episode.